Hello, Recapped Mystery here. Today, I'm going to explain a romance, thriller, sci-fi, film, The Adjustment Bureau. Watch out and take care. David Norris, a candidate for the New York Senate in 2006, cares about people and understands their needs. David's campaign is rocketing to the moon and shows no signs of slowing down, but this is due to his past blunders, which were detailed in a New York Post article stating he is exposed for flashing his bare rear at a college reunion. Even before all of the county ballots are tabulated on Election Day, NBC News forecasts a landslide defeat for David. David goes into the men's room by himself to think. While preparing his speech, he notices noises coming from one of the stalls, indicating that it is occupied by a female. Elise Sellers emerges from the stall, barefoot and clutching her shoes. She explains that she hid from security after breaking into a wedding on a dare. The two clicked right away. Elise says that she laughed at David's reunion hoax. David claims he's glad he didn't win since he now has more time to himself. But Elise does not believe him. She believes he enjoys being in a crowd. She and David start kissing passionately as they immediately fall for each other. Charlie, his campaign manager, interrupts them. Because of the security guards, she rushes out without giving him a chance to contact her. David delivers his passionate and dramatic speech, but then he says it's all BS and that it's just something that has a lot of traction. He begins speaking truthfully and delivers an amazing speech, erasing the damage done by his public indiscretions. That puts him in the lead for the next election in 2010. Two guys, Harry and his boss Richardson, meet a month later. Harry is told to spill David's coffee on his shirt before 7:05 a.m., or else David will miss his bus. David is now a senior partner at RSR, the firm Charlie created. While waiting in the park, Harry nods off and awakens just in time to watch David board his bus. He meets Elise there, and they can't believe they're seeing each other again. Harry sprints after the bus. They catch up on current events, and she encourages him he should run for Senate again. When Harry is hit by a car, he examines his notepad and discovers that David has deviated from the plan. David's phone continues to ring, disturbing their conversation, so she simply throws it in his coffee. She writes her phone number on a card and he vows to call her, as though fate brought them together. David enters the RSR headquarters and meets numerous staff, not realizing that they appear to be frozen in time. He enters the conference room to discover Richardson and many of his men inside. One of them is waving an odd instrument at Charlie, who is also stopped in time. Richardson directs his soldiers to apprehend David. He runs, but more of Richardson's men charge at him from nowhere, seemingly out of nowhere. Likewise, David manages to lock himself in Trainer's office and dials 911 in a panic. Richardson's guys walk through the locked door as if it were open. David has been knocked out. When he awakens, he hears Richardson trying to persuade his men that David needs to be reset, but the chairman would never sign an order to that effect. David has no notion what they are saying or what they mean. Finally, Richardson approaches David and introduces himself. He is in charge of ensuring that everything goes according to plan. The plan dictates how current events should unfold and how people's lives should be lived. David believes Richardson is insane and attempts to flee. Richardson bends up a little section of the floor in order to trip David. He can read David's thoughts, and they are the Adjustment Bureau, abbreviated TAB. Richardson reveals that David was intended to spill his coffee, missing his bus and arriving at work 10 minutes late, preventing him from seeing Richardson and TAB adjusting Charlie. Richardson needs assurance that now that he has seen TAB in action, he will never tell another soul about what he has seen, something no human can know exists. Richardson claims that if David ever mentions TAB, his brain will be reset, his personality erased, and he will appear nuts for the rest of his life. To David's surprise, Richardson then advises him that his bus encounter with Elise should not have happened and that he should never see her again. They discover the card on which she put her phone number, burn it, and throw him into Charlie's office. David can't believe what he's been through and refuses to talk about it with anyone, just in case the danger of memory wipe is genuine. David is perplexed as to how Charlie has changed his mind about a proposition he was vehemently opposed to only an hour before. There are a few things that bother Harry. David is seated in a small bar sometime later, trying to recollect Elise's phone number from memory. Harry joins him and asks why David is so preoccupied with one woman when his entire life has been flipped upside down. He instructs him that even if he remembers her phone number, he should never call her. Harry proposes that they meet somewhere else. They meet aboard a boat, and Harry says that the water makes it impossible for them to read his motions. He explains him about their role in human civilization, how they can't read people's minds and can only recognize other people's patterns, making them easier to forecast. Essentially, they are angels doing the duties of the chairman. They'll go to any length to keep him away from Elise. Harry urges that he forget about her and move on with his life. 3 years have passed. David is still hoping to see her and is keeping a watchful eye on his surroundings. As he sits on the bus, he observes Elise on the sidewalk and calls for the bus to come to a halt. He catches up with her and tells her that he has been riding the same bus for 3 years in the hopes of running into her. They go for a walk, and he swears he misplaced her phone number and doesn't know her last name to look for her. Tab immediately discovers that David is not following the plan. Richardson is still cleaning up after Harry. Richardson is advised that she is deviating significantly from her path, but if she does not hear from David within the next 36 hours after they part ways, she will never forgive him. They realize during the adjustment that kissing will be an irreversible diversion from the plan. Tab is responsible for Charlie's discovery. David has a speech he can't skip, and Elise won't let him because she's rehearsing 3 minutes away from where he's giving the speech. All in accordance with Tab's concept, Richardson sends Charlie a message with a flick of his finger just as they are ready to kiss, so Charlie begs David to hurry. He opts for a cheek. Richardson breathes a sigh of relaxation. David pledges that nothing will ever come between them and that he will see her shortly. He's running for a Senate seat again. Elisa's rehearsal has been relocated to a new place. After the lecture, David notices Richardson and his men at the window. He has a feeling something is awry. The auditorium at Pier 17 is closed. He attempts to contact the ballet company, but the line is disconnected. Tab is keeping an eye on his upcoming moves and has already taken action against them. Richardson decides to confront David because he continues running around. David inquires as to why they are attempting to keep them apart, and is informed that it is due to the plan. He claims that the plan is flawed, despite the fact that God wrote it. So, why is he feeling this way? Richardson, it turns out, has no idea why David shouldn't be with Elise. He's simply carrying out their plan. He goes to a coffee shop, and one of the customers points out the location of the dance company. He attempts but fails to hail a cab, and Tab is hot on his tail. David does not let up. He chases after one of the taxis, and they ultimately come to a halt, only to be engaged in an accident. Because he is the only witness to the collision, the cop tries to detain him for as long as possible until he figures it out. He wasn't a genuine cop, but rather one of the operatives. Finally, he hails a cab and gives him $100 in exchange for breaking a few driving laws and outwitting the Tab. They attempt to adjust the traffic light, but this would have far-reaching consequences, so they simply let him go. They attempt to adjust the traffic light, but this would have far-reaching consequences, so they simply let him go. Tab rushes past multiple doors in an attempt to beat him to the ballet company. Simply seeing her dance would turn everything upside down. When Richardson drops his hat and fails to unlock the door to stop him, David opens it and discovers Elise dancing. Richardson tells him to rejoice now because people far more powerful than him are on their way, but David doesn't care right now. Richardson meets with his superior, and it turns out that Elise and David were meant to be together. But the plan changed in 2005, and traces of prior plans continue to drive them to each other. Richardson approaches Harry and apologizes for falling asleep that day. In a dozen earlier plans, they were destined to be together. David and Elise go to a bar, where they dance, drink, and have fun. They kiss on the pier and then go to bed. After the exercise, Agent Thompson hovers over them and mulls over how to rapidly break them up. Elise is perplexed when she receives a call from her ex-boyfriend in the morning. She is perplexed as to why he called today, of all days, and 4 times. David rapidly grasps the situation. He inquires further about her ex, telling her that he seems wonderful. Why didn't she marry him? She didn't marry her ex-husband because he was a hopeless romantic. They have a romantic talk, and David, unable to bear the thought of losing her, brings her with him to an interview. While David is doing an interview, a man enters and informs Elise that David will be delayed and will phone her when he is finished. To prevent David from meeting Elise, the same man leads him to the vacant warehouse. Thompson eventually approaches him. David wonders what became of free will. People enjoyed free choice for the last time after the Roman Empire, which lasted 5 centuries. When they returned, they restored everything and stepped back in time to 1910. Humans brought World War I and II, the Great Depression, fascism, the Holocaust, and then they intervened again. People do not have free will, rather, they appear to have free will. Thompson then says that seeing Elise in the men's room was no accident, because it inspired him to give a wonderful speech, making him the front-runner for the following election. David will win the next 4 elections and eventually become president. That won't happen if he stays with Elise. David is not content with his fate and will always choose Elise. Thompson unlocks the gates and lets David escape. He still has time to get to Elise's show. David stands there watching Elise dance. Thompson informs David that staying with her will destroy not only his dreams, but also hers. Elise would go on to become the world's most famous dancer, but she would do so while teaching 6-year-olds how to dance. Thompson believes the decision is ultimately his, although he tried to persuade him otherwise. Thompson nods as he walks away, and Elise falls. David drives her to the hospital to get her leg examined. Thompson approaches David and apologizes for spraining her ankle. He punches Thompson out of free will, just as he did in the pub fight that cost him the last election. This time it's only a sprain, but the next time he'll take away all she values. He reiterates that it is up to him to give her up. David is relieved that it is only a sprain. He hugs Elise and assures her he will make some calls before leaving the hospital. Richardson informs Harry that it has been completed. Elise is devastated. Harry questions whether the plan is always correct. The chairman has the plan, and the angels can only see a portion of it. 11 months have passed. In the polls, David enjoys a commanding lead. Charlie, on the other hand, informs him that Elise is marrying her ex-boyfriend in a week. Harry arranges a meeting with David on a dock and informs him that Thompson lied about Elise, bringing out his impulsive side. He informs him of the truth. He has an emptiness in his heart that he fills with people cheering and voting, and when he's with Elise, she'll be enough for him, and he won't dream of becoming president. Harry tells David that he feels sorry for him because his family was sacrificed in order for him to be where he is now. The wedding of Elise is tomorrow. David requests that Harry assist him by teaching him how to teleport through the doors. He urges him to always turn the doorknob clockwise rather than anti-clockwise. When they are wearing their special cap, the doors are never locked. They go through the museum, then the pumping station. Harry requests that he wait. At that point, David notices him turning the doorknob anti-clockwise and other agents passing by. Harry instructs him how to go through doors and warns him that if he does, all hell will break loose. Assume that anyone wearing a hat poses a threat. On the wedding day, Harry offers David his hat and wishes him luck. He escapes and makes a break for it. Thompson is alerted, and they begin their pursuit. He enters the DMV without locking the door. Because of the hat, Tab has difficulty locating him. David misplaces his phone and jacket at the courthouse metal detector and eventually finds Elise before the wedding ceremony. He attempts to explain himself to her, but she rejects him. He tells her that everything has a reason and tells her about the angels, punches one in the face, and grabs his book to show her that they both love each other and that he wants to spend the rest of his life with her, even if it's just for a short time. Thompson is informed that he has exposed the angels to her, and an intervention team is summoned to totally reset David's mind. David says he never lied to her, takes her hand in his and leads her through one of the toilet doors to the stadium. She can't believe her eyes and they continue going. She wants an explanation for everything at the Statue of Liberty, and David provides one. He gives her the option of walking out the door alone and never seeing him again, or coming with him. He hasn't stopped thinking about her since he met her. Elise follows David without a question in her mind. They enter the main base of Tab by turning the door anti-clockwise. Tab is aware of them. They sprint up what appears to be an unending flight of steps. In the meantime, Harry has been summoned to the chairman's office. When they finally make it to the rooftop, the intervention team is close behind them, trapping them. They profess their feelings for each other and exchange deep, passionate kisses as if they'll never see each other again. The intervention team agents are gone when they open their eyes. Thompson attempts to inform them that their attempt to contact the chairman was futile. Thompson says he understands and leaves as Harry arrives and delivers a message. Harry claims that they sacrificed everything for each other, that they inspired the chairman, and that he modified the plan to compensate for the significant difference, and that they can now climb the stairs. You don't know how to use your free will until you battle for it. Perhaps that is the chairman's true plan, that one day you will write the plan instead of him. Please subscribe to assist the channel, turn on notification and leave a like. Thank you for taking the time to watch. See you again soon.